to her. Either way, Peter heard her out, but what ended up happening after that may have been Parvati's biggest mistake, because Parvati went ahead and she decided to talk with John. Welcome back, everyone. This is Classically Christian. We are in for another talk of the Traitors. This is the recap for episode 8. Wow, we are 8 episodes deep already. And we've had some, in the past few episodes, we've had a lot of turmoil amongst these traitors, all spearheaded, in my opinion, and I think pretty irrefutably by Dan's lack of willingness to hear out his fellow traitors. He's not only led to his own demise, but you can already start to see the cracks and the crinkles in the rest of the group, as they have gained more suspicion as a unit throughout the house. Thanks, Dan. This episode, we're starting out. We're coming back where we left off. Remember, we had those 5 people that were eligible to be killed. Obviously, we knew Parvati couldn't be killed. We had, it could have been Trishelle, it could have been Bergie, it could have been Kate, and it could have been Kevin that was killed. 5 people left vulnerable in that position, but like I said, of course, we know it wasn't Parvati, because Parvati is a traitor. We start this episode out, we're at the breakfast table, everybody's sitting around, they're coming in one by one, and everybody's sitting there talking about who it could be. I think there was a couple people mentioning that they thought it might have been Trishelle. And I thought that might have been a safe way to go as well. She's in that most faithful of the faithful group, that 5. I felt like her and Kevin were kind of on the outside of that group. To me, the core 3 of that, as of my impression of it, based on the first few episodes that they had been formed, I felt like the core 3 were Peter, Bergie, and John. Now I might be wrong, might be right. I can't know for sure. This is just based on the editing that I've seen. That's my conclusion that I've jumped to. So we sit around. Slowly everybody's coming in. Kate's safe, Kevin's safe, Parvati we obviously knew was safe. Trishelle is safe, and so the person who ends up getting killed is our good friend, the always lovable, the Mr. Bergie. It's a shame to see him go. I liked Bergie, but he was direct opposition for the traitors. He had to get out of there sooner rather than later, but I thought it was awfully suspicious, because in my opinion, it has been the perception up to this point that Bergie seems to be Peter's right-hand man, and because Peter was safe, it was and everybody knows his number one enemy in the house is Parvati. Kind of seems like, hey, Parvati's probably trying to take out his best friend, and yeah, that's kind of how I felt about the move. I was like, okay, not their best work, but anyway, we move on, we progress. As we move further along in the episode, we have a clue of something about escape, and that is a clue for the next challenge they have coming up. A challenge where they can possibly find a shield, where they can possibly find where they can possibly add some more money to the pot. And they make their way out to the woods, and they are greeted by a reality television legend in the form of Big Brother's Dr. Will. They love him in this host type of role. He's been doing it so much in Big Brother with the jury host thing, and yeah, this is what Dr. Will is made to do. For some reason he won't play again, but he sure has a lot to say. No. They get into this escape room, and they have to figure out the clues, like an escape room. But along the way, they have all these nasty things that they have to deal with, these nasty crawling bugs and worms, maggots, and all this stuff crawling on them, and then they can choose at any time to leave it. But if they leave, then you know, they're losing money, losing people to complete the challenge. But they end up getting through it and all this. A lot of people tap out. At the end, you have people like CT, Parvati, Evan, and a couple others that managed to make it through all the way. Yeah. And Trishelle too. Trishelle ends up being the one who gets the shield necklace, so she's safe for the night. She cannot go anywhere. All right, so we get and after the challenge, we get back to the house. There's a lot of talking going on, and honestly, ever since the last episode, even though you know, last episode there was no round table, so they couldn't vote anybody out, and then there was a murder. So it still stands the same way as it did in the previous episode. We're kind of public enemy number one, and the most heavily favored to be a traitor at this point by the consensus of the house is Parvati. So Parvati is aware of this. Parvati is scrambling around. She's trying to find ins to, you know, create doubt maybe, and behind the scenes Trishelle has actually been newly on the heels and on the case, thinking, hey, you know what, I actually think that it's Phaedra. And the reason, you know, she points to how she never seems flustered or anything, but one of the big things she points out is she thinks when Dan left, that Dan saying Phaedra is he actually gave up one of the real traitors to alleviate himself of any you know, guilt. And Trishelle's absolutely right about this. I was really impressed with her to get that. Like, she's not one from these strategy games. She played the challenge, I believe, but that seems to be more physical from what I've seen. She didn't play on these Big Brother Survivor type games. So for her to be able to piece that together and be like, hey, this is why Dan did that, I thought that was really cool. She was so dead on too with her entire read of Phaedra. And so there's kind of this other portion of this dynamic going on too, where Parvati's still the favored person, but then there comes the conversation of, well, actually, I think it might be Phaedra. Why don't we do Phaedra now? We still think Parvati is a traitor. We're going to keep her around, but let's definitely get out Phaedra now, because Phaedra is more dangerous because she's low key, whatever. And at that point, Parvati, still having heard her name, is going around and she's trying to strike deals with everybody. She talks to Peter, you know, her number one op, and is like, hey, look, I might have been icy, but it's just because of what I've been dealing with my outside life and all this stuff. And when, you know, I trusted the wrong person, and when things aren't going good, you know, I tend to shut down, and I'm sorry for that, but that's really what it is. And honestly, Peter seemed to be somewhat receptive to this. Now, I couldn't tell if he ultimately went the way that he did because he did want to create dissent between Phaedra and Parvati, and he thought that both of them were working together, or if he genuinely was starting to think that Parvati had some innocence to her. Either way, Peter heard her out, but what ended up happening after that may have been Parvati's biggest mistake, because Parvati went ahead and she decided to talk with John. And with John, she was kind of saying the same thing, you know, like that she's been icy and that this isn't her and all this stuff. And John seemed receptive to it, but John is smarter than he looks, man. John is a politician, and John can kind of see through things himself. So he leaves. They seem to be cordial, but we'll just move along to the round table. Once we get to the round table, you know, they're all sitting there, and Parvati kind of starts things off. She's like, you know, I know my name's been tossed around a lot, but it's not me, and here's why, and all this stuff. And John actually speaks up at that point, and he's like, you know, I believe that it's actually Parvati, because she just the way that she acted in the previous episode. Well, he didn't say episode, but in the previous thing, it was because she always seems nervous for banishment, but she doesn't seem nervous about murder. Like last night, everybody had a chance to plead their case and be like, hey, please save me, and she didn't do that. And she's kind of trying to explain it away like, well, yeah, I'm not worried about being murdered because right now everybody sees me as the public enemy #1, and if the traitors see that, I would think that they would want to keep me around as a potential shield to take the heat off of themselves. That's what I would do, and that's that would seem like a smart decision for the traitors to do. But yeah, I'm worried at banishment because everybody thinks I'm a traitor, so they're gonna vote me out. But I think John was kind of not believing her on that, and yeah, he ultimately ended up casting his vote for her. So Trishelle made her case against Phaedra, and yeah, we got to the vote. It was actually pretty split. It was Parvati and Phaedra. I thought Phaedra might put a vote on Trishelle because she was mad at her, but no, it was it was actually, she voted for Parvati as well, and unfortunately Parvati ended up with more votes. So there goes my favorite person in this show. Parvati is now eliminated, unfortunately. Traitors down another number, and Phaedra's got to try and take this all the way back, but her name's on the chopping block now too. Everybody thinks she's a traitor. She was doing so well up until this, but the heroics from, I'll say this, the heroics from both Trishelle and from John, who really fished this whole thing out, and they really kind of put things together. I believe Bergie was on that same type of track as well, and Peter seemed to be spearheading it up until this episode. Peter actually put a lot of heat on himself for willing to work with Parvati after he seemed so adamantly against her. It rubbed a lot of people the wrong way, and now people are starting to think, hey, maybe Peter's a traitor. But yeah, we got Parvati out, and so next up is who does the traitor murder next? But because they're down another number, they get a chance to recruit, except this recruitment is a little bit different. Alan tells Phaedra, hey, you get to recruit and you can make them an offer. Look, either you join me as a traitor or you're killed. So it's not really an option, in my opinion. It's not like, hey, you can or you can't. It's either, do you still want to win the money or do you not want to win the money? If you want to still win the money, now you have to do it as a traitor. It's like forcing your hand. She has to meet into a lair with the person. And Phaedra, I was thinking, like, who do you go for right here, right? And my opinion was, I thought it would have been a good poll to put that power on John, because obviously if it's a regular traitor invitation, he probably would say no to it, just how Peter did. But the fact that he would have to leave the game if he says no, I think he might, choose to take it. And right now, John seems the most he's the most faithful of the faithfuls. He's like ultimate good guy, ultimate baby face in professional wrestling terms. He's just he's the golden boy right now. So if she would have pulled John, I feel like that would have been pretty cool. But she ends up doing it to Kate, which is safe because Kate came in late to the game. Kate came in late, and to this date, she's not had a lot of suspicion on her. She's somebody that probably people trust. They don't expect her to be a traitor. So we'll see how this goes. But the only thing that worries me with Kate is I haven't seen, at least the editing hasn't shown me anything, where she has intimate connections with other members of the cast. So does this play into Phaedra's favor in terms of regaining power for the traitors? Only time shall tell. But at this point, I think you gotta say who's playing the best game. maybe John and Trishelle, they're really putting things together, but they're also putting a target on their back for the Traitors. A guy like CT, who's kind of right in the middle, hasn't really, you know, let his allegiances been known. He's just kind of watching from afar. Sandra's playing a good low-key game, very similar to the style that she has played in Survivor before. That's led her to 2 victories. So we'll just have to wait and see. I do think that Phaedra is very vulnerable right now. Peter, who I was, you know, singing the praises of for a couple of episodes, I think that he is now in danger as well, just from a banishment perspective. And so that's my thoughts on things right now. If you guys have any additional comments that you want to add below, who do you think's playing the best game? Let me know in the comment section. Leave a like on this video if you enjoyed it. Click the subscribe button with the bell next to it so you get updated every single time I upload, and I will see you guys in the next video. Have a great day. Bye.